Welcome to Missing Chronicles, where we delve into the heartbreaking and enigmatic mysteries surrounding disappearances. Here, we will immerse ourselves in the world of unsolved cases, thrilling search efforts, and intricate journeys. The goal of this channel is to spread awareness, foster community connections, and provide support to the families and loved ones of the missing. Join me as we embark on a suspenseful journey, hoping to uncover the truth behind these missing chronicles. Help us sustain and grow Missing Chronicles by becoming a patron on Patreon. Your contribution ensures that we can continue our investigations, share compelling stories, and work towards a world where no one is forgotten. Join us in making a lasting impact today. The peculiar vanishing of Damian McKenzie. Damian McKenzie was described by those who knew him best as good-natured and responsible, even at such a young age. In September of 1974, 10-year-old Damian McKenzie was attending a youth camp in the mountains of Victoria, Australia, when he inexplicably vanished without a trace. The group was camping near Victoria Falls in the Atron River near Taggerty, with approximately 40 to 45 youths in attendance, including young Damian. The camp was run by the Australian Youth League, and the event was supposed to be 5 days of hiking and exploring the wilderness, along with many other fun activities for the children to participate in. There was nothing they were doing or had planned that would be considered dangerous, even by the most conservative standards. It was meant to be a fun time in the great outdoors for a bunch of young kids. There had never been any sort of incident with any of the kids or otherwise in all the years that the camp was in operation. It was said to have been well supervised, and nobody had even the slightest inkling of the strangeness and tragedy that was about to befall Damian McKenzie. On September 4, 1974, the group headed to Stevenson Falls at Marysville, Victoria, which involved them having to make their way up a winding trail on the mountain that led to the falls. It was a bit of a strenuous hike, but the kids all seemed to be having a good time. The children were carefully supervised, and every single one of them was within sight of the others. The chaperones were well-qualified school teachers, and many of them had a lot of experience in conducting and overseeing camps such as this one. The trip to Stevenson Falls was usually a night trip, so they could see the falls under floodlights. However, on a previous night, the floodlights were faulty, so the chaperones decided to take the children there during the daytime hours. At around 11:30 that morning, Damian is said to have only gotten a few steps ahead of everyone else and rounded a bend. Within less than a minute, the rest of the group also rounded that same bend, but Damian was nowhere to be found, and in fact, he would never be seen or heard from again. The group called out for Damian but never received a reply. The authorities were quickly notified, and one of the largest search and rescue operations in Australia's history commenced to find 10-year-old Damian. The search involved more than 300 people across various agencies, including the police, the Federation of Victorian Walking Club's Search and Rescue Section, the Search and Rescue Squad, the Forestry Commission of Victoria, the Red Cross, numerous local volunteers, aircraft, and tracking dogs. The search lasted almost an entire week but eventually had to be called off due to inclement weather, which would have impeded the search and posed many dangers to the searchers. No one ever found a single clue or trace of Damian, and the people who were with him right before he vanished said it was like he just rounded that bend and stepped right off the face of the earth. During the search, some strange things happened that left everyone scratching their heads. The dogs brought in to track and search for Damian were unable to pick up any scent or trace of the boy. This was extremely odd because that's exactly what those dogs were trained to do, and yet, for some reason, they couldn't do so in this case. In a lot of cases, the dogs will pick up a scent and then lose it after following it for a while, but in this case, they simply walked around in circles repeatedly and seemed very confused and agitated as they couldn't grasp what they were supposed to be looking for. It's also been said that search and rescue did believe at one point that they had found footprints belonging to Damian, but that they led right up to the side of one of the waterfalls and then just stopped at the drop-off. From the looks of it, Damian McKenzie had walked up to the side of a waterfall and then merely evaporated while he was right there in that spot. However, it should be said that others involved in the search dispute the claims that the footprints were even there to begin with, and others still admit there were children's footprints in that area, but they were never able to determine whether or not they belonged to Damian or perhaps to some of the other kids who were hoping to search for him. Regardless, whether the footprints existed at all and if they were Damian's or not are almost irrelevant points considering the fact that no trace of Damian has ever been found to this day, and no one can seem to make any sense of it all. It's another one of those cases where someone in the wilderness was there one moment and then vanished the next, incredibly disturbing, to say the least. Due to the lack of clues and evidence in this case, speculation and theories have run the gamut from the reasonable to the downright outrageous. However, in a case like this, where there's nothing else to go on and when someone, especially a young child, thoroughly vanishes and stays that way, there's nothing more to go on than theory and speculation. The first theory is that Damian had simply gotten lost out there in the bush. The area where the group was hiking and where he vanished from is said to have been very rough and rugged, filled with thick brush and undergrowth that, in some places, is nearly impenetrable. One of the men involved in the search and rescue effort backed this theory up, saying that it didn't matter how thoroughly they tried to search, with that type of thick brush, the boy could have been mere feet from them, and they never would have seen him, but they surely would have heard the boy, right? That's the answer people who are skeptical of this simple yet very reasonable theory give. Damian was 10 years old and described as bright and responsible. Therefore, it stands to reason, at least according to some people, that he would have been able to hear the searchers who were looking for him and call out to them from wherever he was if he had been trapped somewhere or otherwise lost in the brush. In order for them to have completely missed him, he would have had to have been either knocked unconscious or succumbed to hypothermia, which again is quite reasonable to think depending on when they passed by where he was. Of course, that means he would have had to have been there in the first place, and there are some theories saying he more than likely hadn't been there during the search and rescue operations. The problem a lot of people have is the fact that Damian was only out of sight of the others in his group and the chaperones for an extremely brief period of time. We're talking about a minute or less, and that's it. How could a whole human being, albeit a child, go missing so quickly and so thoroughly in such a short time period? That's the most baffling part of this mystery. Some people believe he fell down a steep slope and into the Stevenson River, and from there, he would have been swept away and most likely would have drowned. However, this river is shallow and slow-running, and it had also been meticulously searched several times with no sign of Damian. The area where he vanished from was used for prospecting gold back in the day, and although all the old mine shafts have been thoroughly filled in, there is a possibility that he fell into one that no one knew about. Once again, though, the area and much of the surrounding area where he disappeared from was meticulously searched on more than one occasion, so more than likely, someone would have stumbled on and discovered an open mine shaft. This just didn't happen, and it's unknown if there were even any open and unfilled mine shafts in that area. A more sinister theory has been proposed, saying that Damian could have been the victim of a predator, and that he was abducted and taken from the area. Witnesses who were there that day are adamant that there was absolutely no indication of anyone suspicious in the area. Plus, the terrain in the area would have made it impossible for someone to have snatched Damian away and taken off with him so quickly without being seen by the others in the group once they rounded that same bend that he had so quickly disappeared around. It's said that someone could have abducted him and quickly ran to the trail, avoiding being spotted. However, the odds of that happening are very slim due to the rough terrain the person would have had to carry Damian through in order to get back to the trails. It's almost completely impossible, and the authorities don't even consider it a viable option. In the end, there are no leads to follow and no clues to investigate, and Damian McKenzie remains lost to the wilderness of Australia, and has been for all these years now. No one has ever reported seeing him anywhere else, and no one can explain how he was mere seconds ahead of the rest of his group and how he could vanish like that within mere seconds. Sadly, we were unable to find any other information on this case, such as his height and weight at the time of his disappearance or what he was last seen wearing. We will continue to bring you updates on this and all of our missing persons cases as we become aware of them. Thank you for watching Missing Chronicles. We have explored captivating stories and searched for answers behind the vanished. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay updated with our latest videos. Share these videos to spread the message and assist affected families and loved ones. If you have any information related to the cases we've discussed, please leave them in the comments section. Together, we can make a difference. See you in the next Missing Chronicles.